Welcome to Hunter Host Vlogs. Hi, and welcome back to Hunter House. We have been so busy and stressed out by so many different things. It's insane. But I wanted to make a video of my pregnancy, how I found out I was pregnant, what happened during my pregnancy. So here we go. So technically it was March of 2017 I found out I was pregnant, and yeah, I was scared. It was a Sunday night. I was at Evan's parents' house, actually not feeling good at all. Remember it like it was yesterday. I was on the floor in their washroom. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I had to work the next morning at 9. I was just drained. I was sick. So I went home. I know you're not supposed to take pregnancy tests at night. It's better in the morning, whatever. I ended up taking one that night. And I was just like, oh, it's negative. It was a dollar store one. I was just like, psh, threw it in the garbage can. Next morning, I'm like, where's my period? Because I hadn't had my period. I was a few days late. And I was like, this is weird. Like, what's going on? So, some reason, my mind goes, okay, pick that pregnancy test out of the trash. Pick it out of the trash. I'm like, okay, again, not supposed to read these after 12 hours. I did. So it said that I was pregnant. 2 lines on the dollar store test that I'd thrown away the night before. What a shock, let me tell you. I was like, oh my goodness, tears started flooding down my face. Evan was getting ready for work. I was getting ready for work. So I go over to Evan, I'm like, come here, like, give me a hug. So we hug, and I tell him, and then he starts to cry. And then we're both, like, so emotional. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be late for work, so I have to go. So I go into work. The first thing I do is I run down to the pregnancy test aisle at my work. I work in a grocery store as a cake decorator, bakery person. So I run down and I'm like, okay, I need a test. So I bought one of the packs that has the digital, and it has the one that gives you the plus or the minus sign. So I bought that, and I went to the washroom, the public washroom, peed on the stick as well as I could on the digital, because I was like, I need to know now. Pregnant instantly. Like, those things are supposed to take however many minutes. It was instantly pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh. Whoa. So then I go down to the bakery. My boss is there, and she's like so helpful. Like, I started to cry, and she literally says, what, are you pregnant or something? And I was just like, and I start crying, and I look at her, and she's like, oh my goodness. And so she took me back. We talked. She assured me, like, everything's gonna be fine, whatever. Like, are you sure? And I was like, oh, I'm sure. Like, I have a pregnancy test. And so that was super nice to have someone there at that moment. Like, when I think I'm going to work my 9-hour shift, 9 to 6, someone there to be nice to me, someone who I'm glad she knew, because you do lift a lot of heavy stuff where I work. So we got through the day, and it was pretty decent. She was asking me how I was most of the day. And then I went home. Evan and I talked, but on the way home, I'm driving, I get this weird, like, thought comes into my brain, Carson. Just like, psh, Carson. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, I don't know anyone with that name. I don't hear that name very often. I'm like, okay, Carson. So I go home, and I'm like, Evan, like, Carson popped up in my head. And he's like, oh, I love that. Like, he loved it. It was an instant agreement. We didn't agree on a girl's name, so kind of worked out that we had Carson. I called my doctors. I got in 2 weeks later. I was about 6 weeks pregnant. I didn't exactly know the last time. I knew my last period, but I didn't, obviously. I wasn't tracking my ovulation, so I didn't know the exact day that we conceived. So I got sent for a dating ultrasound at 9 weeks and 6 days. Yes, my memory is on point. So 9 weeks, 6 days, I'm still like, this isn't real, like what if we go and they're just gonna say, oh, you're not pregnant, like this, oh, whatever, no big deal. Even though I've already gone for all my blood work, I already got my HCG checked, I was just like, what if they tell us there's no baby? This was all just, you know, like, I don't know why women think that. I know more women who have thought that. And a lot of people don't get dating ultrasounds, so I was kind of lucky to get that. So we go down to the hospital, and we get the ultrasound. And I was like, holy crap, like, there's a baby in there. Like, oh my God. So I call my mom. I was like, okay, so there's a baby in there. Like, and I actually called my mom the day I found out I was pregnant, like instantly right after I had the test. She was the first person to know before my boss. And I was like, Mom, like, I'm pregnant. I just called her crying. She's like, what's the matter? She said everything's gonna be fine. I was like, I know it's gonna be fine. I'm just scared. Like, oh my God. And yeah, so a few days goes by. I think it might have been 1 day, 2 days. My brother's girlfriend at the time was working at the mall. So I go to the mall, I'm like, Dustin, meet me there, that's my brother. I was like, meet me there, like, after work, I need to talk to you guys, I need to see you. It's snowing, I don't drive in the snow, I was so scared. So I go in, and I buy a little onesie that's like, says, let's be friends. And it was gray and white, so kind of neutral. And so I hand it to Caitlin because I see her first. She goes, oh my God, and she gives me the biggest hug. Mind you, Caitlin and I don't hug very often. So I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome, like, that's great. And then Dustin comes, he gets super excited, he's excited, like, what a good time. The next day, I went and told my father. Well, he kind of beat it out of me because I told him I was coming over to tell him something, so he was going to make supper. He came to my work an hour before supper and was like, are you pregnant? So he pretty much already knew. Evan told his family the same night that I told my dad. And yeah, and then we kind of kept it between the circle of those people. Oh my gosh. You're so cute. Hold on. What are you smiling about? Hi, baby. Thank you for watching Hunter Host Vlogs.